Hey, and welcome back. I hope you're fine today, and if it's your first time here, I'm so glad you decided to stop by. We've got a lot to unpack, and honestly, today's news feels like one of those moments where you can almost sense history turning a corner. We're talking about looming government shutdowns, new and controversial military directives, and high-stakes negotiations in the Middle East that could either ease or escalate an already devastating war. So let's settle in and really break this down together. Let's start at home here in the US because this is where things feel the most urgent. The federal government is staring down yet another shutdown, and the deadline is quite literally ticking away. At 12:01 a.m. Wednesday, unless Congress comes up with some sort of compromise, we're looking at large portions of the government grinding to a halt. That means federal workers could be furloughed. Services Americans rely on, from processing benefits to handling critical administrative tasks, could be delayed or suspended, and ripple effects could hit the economy at a moment when many families are already feeling financial strain. And the thing is, shutdowns aren't just political theater. They hurt real people. Imagine waiting for your paycheck and suddenly being told it's frozen until politicians figure things out. Or imagine depending on a program for food or housing assistance and not knowing whether those resources will still be available. That's the human side of this stalemate. So here's a question for you. When political leaders allow the government to shut down over partisan fights, who do you think pays the steepest price? The politicians themselves or everyday citizens who have no say in these power struggles? Now, this drama is unfolding against the backdrop of some big moves from the Trump administration, particularly on the military front. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has been front and center this week, rolling out new directives for the U.S. military. He's gathered hundreds of military officials in person to announce sweeping changes aimed at what he called ending woke culture in the armed forces. Among these changes is a mandate for what they're describing as male-level physical fitness standards across the board. On the surface, some people might see this as a push for uniformity, but critics are warning that it could end up alienating service members, creating new barriers, and possibly even undermining morale. Think about it. Should the military be more focused on ideological battles over culture, or on ensuring readiness, training, and unity among the ranks? And what happens if those priorities get out of balance? At the same time, Trump himself has been making some striking statements. Speaking at Quantico, he suggested that America's most dangerous cities could be used as training grounds for the military. That idea alone has sparked a wave of reactions, with some arguing it's innovative and practical, while others see it as deeply concerning. Imagine soldiers running drills not in isolated bases, but in real neighborhoods struggling with crime. Is that smart preparation, or is it turning American communities into something they never signed up for? But that wasn't all. Trump also announced a deal with Pfizer aimed at lowering drug prices, along with a new website where consumers could buy medications directly, cutting insurers out of the process. On one hand, that sounds like a win for people frustrated with high drug costs. On the other hand, it raises questions about accessibility, regulation, and whether cutting out insurers could create unintended consequences down the road. If drug prices drop but access becomes uneven, who really wins? Now, let's shift gears to the international stage, where perhaps the biggest gamble is unfolding. Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu have unveiled a proposed plan to end the war in Gaza and secure the release of hostages held by Hamas. Several leaders in the Middle East have cautiously welcomed the proposal, but the key player, Hamas itself, hasn't given an answer yet. Their official line is that they're still studying the plan. And let's be real, whatever Hamas decides could drastically change the trajectory of the conflict. If they reject it outright, the violence and suffering could drag on indefinitely. If they accept or propose modifications, we might see a rare window for diplomacy. This brings me to something I want to hear from you about. When peace deals are announced without involving all the parties at the table, do you think they stand a real chance of lasting? Or do you think it's more of a political show than a genuine pathway to peace? Now, consider the broader picture. We have the U.S. government possibly shutting down at the very same time its leadership is trying to broker peace in one of the world's most volatile regions. Doesn't it seem like a strange contradiction? How can a government that can't even guarantee it will stay open past midnight credibly present itself as a stabilizing force abroad? It raises the question of how much weight America still carries internationally when its domestic politics look so unstable. Let's also think about the ripple effects. A shutdown at home could weaken America's position abroad, signaling dysfunction to both allies and adversaries. Meanwhile, a failed or ignored peace plan in the Middle East could embolden extremists and prolong the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. And on the military front, cultural battles over standards and ideology could distract from the core mission of national defense. All of this happening at once feels like a moment where the stakes couldn't be higher. So let me ask you this. If you were in charge of setting America's priorities right now, where would you put the most focus? Avoiding the shutdown, reforming the military, or securing peace in the Middle East? Which one do you think matters most for the long-term future of the country? Here's what's clear. These aren't just headlines or political talking points. These decisions affect lives. The lives of federal workers wondering about their paychecks, the lives of service members navigating new rules, and the lives of civilians in Gaza hoping for a chance at peace. And maybe that's the part we can't lose sight of. Beyond the politics, beyond the speeches, these are human stories. So, as we wrap this up, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Congress will step up and avoid the shutdown, or are we heading straight into another political crisis? Do you think the military's new directives will help or hurt? And do you see any chance that the Gaza peace proposal actually succeeds? Let's start a conversation because these are the kinds of issues where public opinion really does matter. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today and taking the time to think through these complex but important issues. If you found this discussion helpful or thought-provoking, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already and share this video with someone who might want to join the conversation. Until next time, stay informed, stay thoughtful, and take care of yourselves.